Tal, a very good morning to you.
Good morning to you, Mike.
Thanks very much indeed for talking to us. We've been looking at various pieces of film over the course of the last 24 to 48 hours of what happened in Rafah, and it's becoming more and more clear that some of the conflagrations of the fire have been caused by what might be described as secondary explosions.
Exactly. Yesterday, the IDF spokesperson announced that we have conducted an investigation, and he published the preliminary findings. The fire that you're now showing on the screen was caused by what appears to be secondary explosions of the very targeted intelligence-based airstrike that we conducted in Rafah on Sunday against two senior Hamas terrorists and other terrorists who were meeting there. These are people who were orchestrating and executing, responsible for numerous murderous terrorist attacks in the West Bank. So we used the IDF precise munitions. In fact, the smallest ones possible that you can put on a jet to carry out a very precise airstrike. But and these munitions that we used could not have caused the fire that you're now showing on the screen. And this is why the IDF had to investigate how come that the very precise airstrike resulted eventually in what appears to be, some civilian casualties in Gaza. And that was caused by the secondary explosion. Now, it appears, this is one of the paths that we're still investigating, but as the IDF spokesperson stated yesterday, it appears that this could have been a Hamas munition depot, a warehouse where Hamas stored munition next to a population, something that was, unexpected and unintended on our behalf when we came to calculate that very precise airstrike.
But presumably, I mean, it wouldn't be unusual for Hamas to have munitions stored around civilians, because that's one of the things that we know that they do. So, I mean, I suppose you might ask the IDF why they didn't know that there was a munitions dump there.
Well, this is what Hamas does, in almost every civilian structure that, if it's a hospital, if it's a children's bedroom, sometimes we find a tunnel shaft inside mosques. We find loads of ammunition and so forth, and even in UNRWA facilities across the Gaza Strip. So Hamas wants to increase the civilian suffering in Gaza. They want to cause as many tragedies as possible. For us, obviously, this is a tragedy. The Prime Minister said that this is outright a tragedy because we don't want to see any civilian casualties in Gaza, but Hamas wants to enhance them. This is what their entire strategy is based upon. They want Israel to take the fire for their vile actions so that international pressure will be, placed on Israel and blame for their murderous actions so that Israel will be somehow forced to stop the war, leaving our hostages in Gaza and Hamas in power. So that's not going to happen.
And certainly what's happened in Rafah over the last few days has increased international pressure. The US have said that what's happening has not crossed any red lines, so the US is still holding firm, if you like. But we've got countries like Ireland and Spain and Norway voting to recognise Palestine. Ireland yesterday talking about the possibility of having a Palestinian embassy almost and a Palestinian diplomatic representative in Dublin.
This is a huge reward for terrorism for Hamas, but just think about it. It's a reward for terrorists all around the world, because they're all watching now what's unfolding between Israel and Gaza, and they're all taking notes. So if terrorists get rewarded for killing Jews and for using these sick methods of war, the ones that we just discussed, their entire strategy that's based upon, increasing the civilian suffering and civilian casualties, rewarding terrorists never panned out well throughout history, as you know. And this is outrageous, because real peace can only be achieved in direct negotiations between Israelis and Palestinians once the right conditions are in place, after Gaza is demilitarized, after the Palestinian society is de-radicalized. And what these countries have done is sending exactly the wrong signal to terrorists and the wrong signal to Palestinians, by the way, who will continue to educate their children to not accept the essence of the existence of a Jewish state, will continue to educate their children that they're so-called refugees of wars that they themselves started, and that they have no horizon for a better future as long as the Jewish people have a state. we can't call this peace. This is not peace. And any kind of, peace that jeopardizes Israel's security, undermines the security of the Jewish people. That's not real peace.
And what about Benjamin Netanyahu? He said before this that not only was it a tragedy what happened in Rafah, but it was a mistake. So do you think he'll take that back now if it turns out that it wasn't actually Israel that caused the problem?
So you see, it's a tragedy, and of course we don't want to see any kind of civilian casualties in Gaza. The only ones who wants to see civilian casualties on the Israeli and the Palestinian side are Hamas. So our fight, of course, is not with the people of Gaza. We're doing everything humanly possible to avoid harm to uninvolved civilians, including, in the steps that we've taken before the airstrike in Rafah. But it is what it is. This is what Hamas wants to achieve here. Hamas, again, they want to see more civilian suffering, more civilian casualties, and for them, it's a strategy. For us, it's a tragedy, and really, it's painful to see the civilian suffering in Gaza. We're also trying to do everything humanly possible to make sure that they get all the humanitarian aid that they need. And as I'm speaking to you now, as far as I know of the figures, nearly 600,000 tons of humanitarian aid were inserted into the Gaza Strip.
Thank you very much indeed for talking to us.
Thanks for watching. Drop a comment below. Don't forget to like, share, and hit subscribe to stay updated with our latest content. Until next time, stay informed and inspired. This is Dejobnik signing off.